Oh, Terry Dubrow, Dr. Dubrow, thank you so much for joining Good Guys. Josh, isn't this a dream?
Dr. Dubrow, excuse me, Terry. I'm sorry. It's like sitting with President Obama and him being like, "Call me Barack." I can't deal with it.
No, it's not that exact comparison, is it really?
No.
Terry Dubrow, Barack Obama. I don't know about that.
No, this
Similar,
is
though.
But I appreciate it.
This
Josh,
is three,
Terry and I-
This is three
Josh, Terry-
good Jewish boys hanging out, and I love it.
We didn't even get to that.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God.
That's it.
Literally, thank God. Josh, Terry and I used the restroom before, separate stalls.
Sure.
But we both washed our hands. We went to use the hand dryer.
Yes.
And Terry said, the hand dryer is the ultimate what you nuts. And now we need to learn more about the science behind the clearly ineffective consumer product, the hand dryer.
The most ineffective product, by the way. So not only is it ineffective in really drying your hands, because if you think about it, if your goal is to have clean hands,
Yes.
if they're still wet and you touch a surface, we call that a fomite, which is a solid surface that potentially contains viruses and bacteria. The best way to get them onto your hands is to have a slightly wet hand to transfer them. So they're completely ineffective that way. As it turns out, they don't do a very good job in terms of keeping your hands sterile or very clean, because that air that circulate, that comes out of those air dryers, it blows up all the viruses and the bacteria on the device and puts it on your hands. So it's actually counterproductive. It's one of the worst things for hand hygiene. So don't use them if you can avoid them.
And they don't work. They
don't
simply don't work.
It's probably better to just wipe off your, hands
Wipe it
or
on your jeans. Wipe it on your
Your
jeans.
jeans are cleaner.
But now I'm just, the way we're linked is I take Ozempic. And you talk a lot about Ozempic.
I think it's the biggest breakthrough in medical history, these drugs.
Wow.
By far and away. Because if you have a drug that can allow people to lose body fat, the number one risk factor for cardiovascular disease, the very reason that I'm here in New York, Heather's walking in what's called the American Heart Association Red Dress Collection, which is this wonderful charity for the American Heart Association. And you know, the number one cause of mortality in men and women is cardiovascular disease, both heart attacks and strokes. And most people don't know that in women. If you ask the standard sort of person off the street, what's the number one cause of death for females in this country? I'll bet you they tell you breast cancer.
Sure.
Well, by far, in a way, it's the same thing that gets men, and that's cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, cholesterol building up. And so when you can reduce that risk, you are saving massive lives. And I'm so fascinated because a lot of people, as you know, don't want to discuss being an Ozempic because of the Ozempic shaming thing, right? Or that they're embarrassed about it, or they think, oh, diet and exercise is the only way to do it, so you should be doing it the natural way. And then all these other criticisms about Ozempic, like the moment you go off it, you gain all the weight back. Right? I don't know if you know about this, or
that's what they say.
But that's but by the way, that's every single diet. Like, who didn't do a couple months of Atkins where you had random flop sweats because all you ate was bacon and cheeseburgers, and suddenly you put on a quick 15 the second you had a baguette?
By the way, that's a super important point, because they say if you go off these weight loss drugs, you're going to gain weight. Well, just to your point, if you go off any wellness program or diet and exercise program, you're going to gain weight. So what?
Terry, wouldn't you say that, like, what we also know about sugar, right, is that it can perpetuate, there's studies that says it can perpetuate Alzheimer's and cancer growth, right? Like, overall, sugar can be pretty detrimental to your system. Like, I feel like if in years, ahead, and we find out more and more that the side effects aren't as bad as we initially thought, why wouldn't everyone be on this just for overall health, even if you don't have weight to lose?
I completely agree with you. We used to think, so I'm a lot older than you guys, we used to think fat was the bad thing, right?
Yeah,
back in the 80s and the early 90s. And then we discovered it's all about sugar.
Sure.
And sugar in your blood, and that's why you got to know your hemoglobin A. Do you guys know your hemoglobin A1C?
Oh, babe, I'm crushing it. I'm 4.
Do you know it?
I'm a number 4. Is that right?
Is that good?
4 is extraordinarily low. So your hemoglobin A1C is a measure of how much sugar has been in your blood for the past 3 months.
Okay.
Which is basically your sugar control.
Sure.
Right? The lower your hemoglobin A1C, the lower you're sort of walking around blood sugar, the less you're exposed to the negative effects of sugar, which are the inflammatory effects inducing cancer, cardiovascular disease, immune disorders, Alzheimer's, all the things that you mentioned. So if you can keep your sugar concentration low in your blood, that's probably the most important thing you can do for longevity and disease prevention.
And for our listeners, when do you need to start checking that hemoglobin A1C? We're a lot of millennials.
Right
Yeah.
The
away.
question is when?
Right
Immediately?
away,
It's
right?
now?
I think a baseline right now
Okay.
for anybody. Because first of all, if you're walking around, what you want to be is below, it depends on the lab you go to, but generally you want to be below 6.0.
Okay.
In some labs, it's 5.7, but let's just say it's 6.0. If you're over 6.0, you're pre-diabetic. If you're over 6.5 in most labs, you are diabetic. So if you're walking around,
Is it in a routine blood test? Because if it is, I get blood work. So I would assume that
you
I've
have
seen
to check
it. Okay.
hemoglobin A1C. And
You do.
someone
Okay.
your age,
Yeah.
your doctors might not check hemoglobin A1C.
But they might because I've been a big fat fatty. So they might have been
Yes.
monitoring
You
that.
would if you have a history of being overweight,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
So your hemoglobin A1C, if it's 6.1 and you're, what are you, 30, 29?
31.
All right. So you're 31, super young. If you're walking around with a hemoglobin A1C right now of 6.2, you're not diabetic, but you are pre-diabetic.
Close.
But your organs, your brain, your immune system is being soaked with sugar all day long.
And let's say that it was that. What do you do besides eating less sugar?
You would immediately go on metformin.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
you would get your doctor's advice.
Sure.
Okay, I'm not anybody's doctor here.
Sure.
I'm happy to be, but I'm not
I wish.
for anybody out there. Well,
Josh, you have to.
I know.
This is local.
I'm
let's
in
be
LA.
honest.
I love elective
but John,
surgery.
I'm in LA, but let's face it, for me to be your doctor, you have to have messed up plastic surgery.
Got it.
You got to be
I
ruined.
We'll
thought you were
get
going to
there.
say really deep pockets.
That too. Dr. Dubrow, you are a Clydesdale of a man. Your arms are popping through the Zoom. It's unbelievable. I wish I was in person to see these cables you got going on here.
They're nice. They're nice.
Oh.
And here you are in incredible shape, and you recently had a mini stroke, which I know is what kind of brought you to your relationship with the American Heart Association.
It is, and Heather got invited. Heather saved my life. Okay, and I'll tell you a little bit of the story.
Yeah, please.
And that's the reason why Heather is here walking the Red Dress Collection concert for the American Heart Association, which we're really excited about, along with other celebrities. By the way, I don't know who the other celebrities are. I can't wait to go to this in a couple days and see who they are. And I know there's some very famous people going to sing in this concert.
Fine, I'm keynoting.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited.
I'm the celebrity.
You're the one.
It's
Okay.
me.
But so there's a red carpet event with the American Heart Association. And, besides the fact that it's the number one cause of mortality for men and women in this country, by 3 times over the number 2, which is cancer. Number 3 is neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And number 4, the metabolic disease cause of death like diabetes. Okay, so it's the number one cause by far and away. It's funny because I was a triathlete in college and in med school, and I grew up in Los Angeles, the vainest city in the country. So I've always exercised my whole life, and I'm 65 years old. I can do 85 push-ups. I could run 10 miles. I'm incredibly healthy, particularly for a guy who's 65. There's not that much difference in my sort of exercise performance between 65 and 30. I mean, I can't run 20 miles the way I used to. But who would think that I'd be sitting there at a restaurant with my wife, okay, having a meal, and then with my son and my wife, and then sort of munching some chips and some avocado, and all
Healthy
of a sudden
fats.
out of the right?
Yeah.
Out of the blue, I say to my son, we're changing this keypad on one of our houses. And I'm saying, I want to say, what's the code? And I go, what's the code? And my wife looks at me and flips out. And I go, no, I'm chewing the avocado. And I'm thinking it's just my mouth. My tongue is not working that well for a second. Otherwise, I feel fine. And she goes, what's wrong with you? I go, no, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong with me, right? And clearly, I am displaying stroke symptoms.
Yeah.
right? And I don't know if you know the acronym for identifying someone with a stroke who has an impending stroke, whether it's a TIA, which is a temporary reduction of blood supply called a transient ischemic effect. Transient ischemic, what is the A?
I have no
Attack?
idea.
Attack, thank you. Transient ischemic act.
Guys, if you're looking for a toy for your kid and you're like, I don't want them to be mindless, I want to get them something that's a treat, but also like that they can kind of learn from, and please God, keep them busy. And wouldn't it be incredible if it came like once a month? Here's where KiwiCo comes in, babe. KiwiCo delivers seriously fun learning for kids of all ages through hands-on projects and activities. They're not too hard. They're not too easy. They take just the right amount of time. Do you ever get that feeling when your kid's like, Dad, help me, I need your help. And you're like, I would rather jump off of a mountaintop, just because you're like, this is now going to take 5 hours. It doesn't. It takes like 15 minutes, but it's fun, and your kid's going to get so much joy out of it. Look, each month, your kid receives crates packed with engaging hands-on activities designed to introduce them to exciting science, technology, and art. My son, he loves it. Recently, we built a bulldozer. We'll build a cool puppet show. There's just like, as my son's gotten older, he started getting KiwiCo when he was 2. He's 5 now, and he continues to stay challenged, engaged, and just have fun. There's something for all ages, and there's no commitment. You can pause or cancel anytime. And so redefine learning with play. Explore projects that build confidence and problem-solving skills with KiwiCo. Get 50% off your first month on any crate line at kiwico.com with promo code GOODGUYS. That's 50% off your first month at kiwico.com, promo code GOODGUYS. If you're dealing with shedding or thinning hair issues, stop it. You have been holding this on too long. It's something that it just is so challenging for so many people, but no one talks about it. But that's where Nutrafol comes in, okay? Because it targets the root causes, and it can help with improved hair growth and decrease shedding and visible thickness. And the truth is that it's time to be proactive, right? Whether you're in the middle of the storm or you see one on the horizon, Nutrafol will come to help you with these things that, so many of us face, men and women alike. By the way, it's a clinically effective formula, and you're not going to compromise sexual performance. That's all you need to know. Okay, Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women's Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months. And you'll just take an easy hair wellness quiz on Nutrafol.com, and you'll get your personalized hair health plan. So take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo GOODGUYS. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and hairstylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code GOODGUYS. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code GOODGUYS.
Or whether you're having a full-blown evolving stroke. But I was displaying the classic sign of someone having a stroke. And by the way, the acronym it's BFAST, F-A-S-T, right? Which is facial drooping, decreased arm strength, difficulty with speech, and then the T is about time, because that means there's a clot in your brain that's blocking off a blood vessel to some critical part of your brain.
Yeah.
And you have got to get that clot dissolved. You got to use these miracle clot busters.
Yeah.
And you only have a limited period of time before, if you don't remove it, that part of the brain dies. So it's really important to be fast, right?
Yeah.
Facial drooping, arm strength, speech disruption, and then the focus on time. Because you have about 3 to 4.5 hours, depending on the study you look at, to get into the emergency room, identify that you're having a stroke, get an IV started, see the neurologist, and get that clot dissolved. Otherwise, that part of your brain is going to die. You're going to have a full-blown, irreversible stroke, okay? So Heather flips out, and I look at her like, what's wrong with you? And then I get upset because we're in this patio restaurant on Robertson Drive at one of the most TMZ bus drive-by places in Los Angeles, called the Ivy. And the TMZ bus literally drives by every 30 minutes looking for celebrity. You've been there, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, but it's like, I mean, they've shot half of the show Entourage there. It is the most strikingly LA paparazzi place you could be. Great onion rings.
So, yeah, the best onion rings. So I'm sitting here going, blah, blah, and Heather's going, oh my God. And she turns to someone and goes, call 911. And I'm so pissed that she's embarrassing me. And, you know, I guess I'm a little altered because I refuse to sort of acknowledge that I'm having a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm pissed and I get up. I'm in denial. I go to the bathroom and it probably lasted 55, 60 seconds. That's it. I had a TAA, not a full stroke. So it already resolved by the time I came back from the bathroom. So I come out of the bathroom and Heather's going, yeah, and I'm saying, what are you doing? And then the paramedics pull up, the TMZ bus. I mean, here it is. The doctor from Botched is going to have, I don't know why she's doing this. I'm furious. And I respectfully go to the paramedics and I go, my wife thinks I'm having a stroke. So let's look at me. And of course, I know all the signs of a stroke. I go, let's hook me up to the monitor, measure my blood pressure. Everything's perfect. But the problem is you can have a TIA. If you're having a TIA, you need to go in the hospital. If you're having a stroke, you need to get your butt in the hospital. Heather wants me to go to Cedars, which is essentially right across the street, and I refuse. And so I take off down the street and I call an Uber. I get an Uber and I drive away. Now, if I'm having a true stroke, and I drive away and I go home to Newport Beach, which is some 2 hours away, and go to bed. And I sleep 8 hours and the stroke evolves.
You're fucked.
I'm fucked, you know, and I'm a surgeon, okay? I depend upon, you know, I'm useless. If I can't use, I can't change a light bulb. I know nothing about cars. I'm functionally an idiot, except when it comes to medicine.
Yeah.
Right? If you take away my ability to operate, what am I good for? I lose my television show. I lose my surgical practice. Well, forget about that. You know, no one wants
I get
that.
it. Totally.
So, and I probably die because the chances of having death after a fully evolved stroke is very high.
Wow.
So she follows me in another Uber and she uses Life 360. She could tell how fast I'm. I don't know if you know about this app,
No.
Life 360. It's the most amazing app where if you sign up for Life 360 and I sign up, I can tell exactly where you are. I can look at your history in terms of where you've been, whether you were in a car, how long were you at a location. Heather can tell. I'm going down the 405 South to my home in Newport Beach. She knows exactly where I am and she says, follow, you know, just keep going.
Makes it so hard to cheat. I don't want my wife to get that for me.
It's not good. So long story short, she starts calling all my friends who are doctors. They start calling me. They go, hey, man, what's up? And I go, nothing. She thinks I'm having a TIA. I go, a stroke. They go, well, I go, does it sound like I'm having a stroke? Do I have any of the FAST signs? I don't have any facial drooping because I'm on FaceTime with them. I go, look at this arm strength, man. And then I go, and my speech is fine. They go, yeah, but you know, you should probably, I go, no, I didn't have a TIA, man. It was just slurring my words a little bit. I had a half a cocktail. I was chewing chips. They go, Terry, go to the emergency room. I go, I'm not going to the emergency room. Plus, to be honest, the next day I was supposed to get on a plane, fly out here and do Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live with Heather. It's going to be a New York trip.
Yeah.
Any excuse to come out here to Manhattan and eat this food and be
It's
on
the
Watch What Happens.
best.
It's the best. And New York is, it's like walking around, you feel like you're in a movie set. This is the coolest city on the planet. There's Paris and there's New York to me. These two coolest cities ever. I didn't want to, if I'm, you know, I don't want to go to the hospital. They'll never let me go on a plane to New York. I don't want to do any of this. I can't believe it. Anyway, so finally she calls this friend of mine who's a cardiologist. And he goes, she thinks you're having a stroke. And I go, I'm not having a stroke. Listen to me. He goes, well, what do you want to do? And I go, I want to go and go to bed. He goes, it's going to freak her out. It's going to freak your son out. He goes, why don't you not do it for you? Why don't you do it for them? And I go, okay. It's like he got through to me instantly, broke through my denial barrier. Right. Why would I torture Heather and my son with this that they witnessed? Let me just go to the hospital. Sure enough, I had an MR angio, an MRI with an angio, and sure enough, I had a TIA.
I'd love to talk about Botched, okay, so here's my first question. Do you do any, obviously we know Paul's the master at the face and the nose especially. Terry, do you do anything from the neck up?
So I do, and probably about 40% of my practice is facial surgery. The reason that I don't on Botched, although I did, the hardest case we've ever done is that woman with had these injections of this, went to a plumping party at some hotel, and this woman injected caulking material in her face, and she ended up with these huge masses in her face. I did that case. The reason I don't is Paul is an ENT doctor, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, okay? So he's a facial plastic surgeon and a very, very good one. I am a classically trained head-to-toe plastic. I trained at UCLA's Department of Plastic Surgery. So I do faces, noses, I don't do noses anymore because there's so many better guys than me, but I do facelifts, I do blepharoplasties, I pin ears back, I do all this facial surgery. But, there's two guys on the show. So you got to give one case to Paul every week and one case to me. So we give him all the faces.
Because he can't do non-faces.
Because he can't do anything below the
Understood.
neck. Yeah. So I do a ton of facial surgery.
When you hear about somebody that injected random shit into their face, how do you not shake them? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, how do you have that restraint? Like, again, I know it's unprofessional, so obviously you have that restraint. But I would just look at them like, what are you, nuts? Like, why is this really worth it?
Well, that's why we're so happy to do Botched, because we put it out there as a cautionary tale. Be careful who and what you let them inject, right? And never do it without medical supervision. Because, by the way, even when you inject the FDA-approved stuff, that stuff can get into a blood vessel, block its circulation, and kill your nose, kill your entire cheek. Vascular occlusion happens from even when you go to a board-certified, experienced dermatologist or plastic surgeon. But these people go to plumping parties and they get non-medical grade silicone, or they go literally to a hardware store and get caulking material and scam these people and inject in their buttocks, their breasts, their face. And when that happens, your immune system goes berserk.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I remember asking, I have a good family friend who's the head of plastics at St. John's. And I asked her, we've made so many great strides in plastic surgery, right? I said, what is still not great? Like, is there a particular surgery that just has not been perfected, something you just would rather not do? And she said, arms. She's like, the scarring around arms is just so difficult to do well that I just wouldn't do it if I could avoid it. What do you think? Cerebral is here to help you achieve your mental wellness goals with professional therapy and medication management support, 100% online. You'll experience the all-new Cerebral way and an innovative approach to mental wellness designed around you. You'll get a personalized treatment plan from a therapist, prescriber, or both in a safe and judgment-free space. Guys, for me, I've always had a little bit of melancholy, a little bit of sadness, and so in dealing with that bit of depression and that little bit of kind of obsessive neurotic thoughts, I have found great sort of relief in talk therapy and also in medicine. And in 2024, that's certainly a health goal of mine, to continue to handle that stuff head on. And with Cerebral, it's easy, right? Because whether you want therapy, psychiatric medication, or both, you are going to get a customized treatment plan from them. And it's all from the comfort and safety of your home, right? And whether it's finding the right provider or scheduling appointments, Cerebral brings it all to you. And they have expert clinicians who work alongside you to craft a treatment plan that's tailored to your individual goals. So to get started on your path towards better mental health, Cerebral is giving our listeners 15% off their first month of online therapy, medication, or both. Get started at Cerebral.com/podcast and use code GOODGUYS to make 2024 your best year yet. That's Cerebral, CEREBRAL.com/podcast and use code GOODGUYS. Offer only valid on monthly plans. Other exclusions may apply. See site for details. Hey, good guys, listeners. I'm here to tell you that there's no reason to panic the next time you're searching for the perfect gift. Now you can use gift mode on Etsy. Gift mode on Etsy is here to take the stress out of gifting so you can find the perfect item for anyone and any occasion. Usually I'm gift card guy, right? I'm like, I don't want to think about this. Here's $100. Go have fun. But my wife was like, hey, that's insensitive. And also people can tell you don't care. And I was like, cause I don't. But she's like, but we want to fake like we care. So now I'm on Etsy and it's beautiful, right? Because it helps me find gifts made by independent sellers for the people in my life. And, you know, it's not the same old thing, right? Whether your friend's the jazz fan, I don't know, the pasta lover, the dog lover, the golfer, shout out my brother-in-law, Will. Maybe they're a musician or a writer, a Zen seeker. I don't know. The truth is that from 90s nostalgia and mixology to reality TV and gaming, there's something for everyone on Etsy. And the truth is, you don't have to get super stressed anymore. With gift mode on Etsy, you're going to be able to search hundreds of gifting personas, right? Like I said, jazz fan, Zen seeker, whatever. And you'll find so many incredible items. And that's how I did it. So a gifting moment is always around the corner, but whether it's birthday, an anniversary, a holiday, or even just a day to say thank you, gift mode on Etsy has you covered. Need to find the perfect gift? Don't panic. Try gift mode on Etsy now.
I would 100% agree with that. So the thing about arms is there's two components to arms. There's fat and there's skin. Mm-hmm. So if you have tight skin and just too much fat, liposuction through teeny incisions, very effective. But once your skin starts to loosen, if you do liposuction, it makes the skin looser and can actually look worse. So when you have a component of significant loss of elasticity of the skin, the only thing you can do is tighten it. And the only way, unfortunately, of tightening the skin in the arms is to make a cut from elbow to armpit. That's called a brachioplasty. That's a big scar. So if someone has moderate laxity, not worth the scar. If someone has so much laxity because they've lost 300 pounds that the arm skin is hanging down, then the risk reward is in the favor of putting a scar there. But if you would have told me, so I graduated med school, UCLA in 86. If you would have told me some 14 plus 23, some 30, whatever, 7 years later, that we're still going to be tightening the skin by cutting it, removing it, and stitching it. I was said, no. In 2024, you guys will be tightening the skin with energy transmission devices.
Yeah, sure.
Either a laser, something out of Star Trek, lasers or ultrasound frequency or radio frequency or some kind of energy transmission. You can believe that we still don't have flying cars. Okay, we can look at someone in China on our phone and talk to them. That is brilliant, right? And FaceTime. But we're still cutting skin and removing it and stitching it up, even in 2024. Now, in 2074, I can't believe we're still going to be cutting skin. We're going to go like this. You're going to hold some device like this and go zzz, 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 which is going to tighten the collagen and tighten it, and you won't have a scar. But still, unfortunately, we're doing it with a scalpel.
Sounds like something you should make.
Well, the big future of plastic surgery is energy transmission to tighten skin. And we do have them. We have things, that you put on the neck, these radio frequency devices. Morpheus 8.
Wow,
that's very good. Do you know any others?
Excuse
Morpheus
me.
8. Well, there was the other, True Sculpt. I've heard of this.
True Sculpt. These are right.
Listen,
God.
I'm a real Hollywood macher here.
So to answer your question, what surgery isn't great? Those procedures for tightening skin. But I will tell you, to further amplify, the number one most popular procedure in plastic surgery is breast augmentation. It's great, but it's also the worst operation. You want to know why?
Why?
You put this inert medical grade silicone or saline with a silicone envelope in a human being. You do this great job. It's an easy operation. A brand new novice plastic surgeon can do it. And then a year later, one of them or both of them can be rock hard. No matter who put it in, even if someone with my level of experience does it, your immune system can decide, nah, screw you, don't like you, I'm going to put scar tissue around you. That happens. Plastic surgeons won't tell you the truth how often it happens. They'll tell you, oh, in my practice, this never happens. Liar. Okay? Total BS. It happens maybe as much as 25% of the time.
Wow.
And if I told you 25% of my operations fail, you'd say you're a terrible plastic surgeon. But it happens up to 25% of the time. So it's a terrible, even though it's the most popular operation, it has the most significant impact on the body of a female in many ways for many women. It fails so often. So it's a terrible operation, yet super popular.
I still like those odds. Sorry, that's just me.
It doesn't stop anybody from signing up. I don't think plastic surgeons do any women any favors when they do a consult. And they go, I walk in and I go, okay, let me tell you why you don't want to do this operation. If you pass this test, then you can go ahead and do it. But if you go in with eyes wide open, I go, look, you at any time in the future, anytime, wake up and have a rock hard breast that hurts and looks terrible, this can happen to you. You still want to do this operation?
This is probably a terrible question, but what about somebody that goes for a breast reduction and taking what's been reduced and putting into somebody that wants bigger breasts?
I can't put my tissue in you. Your immune system will reject it.
Okay.
You need immunosuppressive drugs. That's why I can't put my liver in you unless we test our body types.
Sure.
And even if we have a similar body type, even if I'm your brother and we have the same blood type and you put my liver in you, you're still on very high dose anti-rejection drugs.
For life,
You have to pay
right?
the price. For life, all right?
Terry,
So
what about on the show? We see the extreme, right? Where we see, sometimes people will. There's usually always a case of someone who's done body modification to a comical extreme. But what if there's just someone who wants, breast enhancement, and it's just, in your opinion, it's not crazy, like comically big. It's just too big for them. You just feel like the aesthetic of what they're looking for, it's just not going to sit right, but they're adamant. Do you take that case?
Another really good question, because if you ask a plastic surgeon, we have very expensive offices that are very fancy to attract patients. So, and there's a lot of plastic surgeons. You hit a tennis ball in Beverly Hills, you're going to hit 5 plastic surgeons on the head, right? So these guys are all competing. So if you walk in, a woman walks in and goes, I want a breast implant that's too big for my body, and not only aesthetically, but the chance of a problem starts to go through the roof. What will the Beverly Hills plastic surgeon say to them? Sure, if you've got the money, I've got the time, honey, right? That's what they'll say. I go, okay, well, let's talk about this. First of all, aesthetically, the first thing that's gonna enter the room if you have these big breast implants is you. You really want that look? If you do, then let me tell you another reason not to do that.
Sure.
Because the bigger you go, the more tension on the internal part of the body, the more the immune system may say, no, I don't like this, the greater the chance you'll have a complication. So you give them the facts. If it's absurdly big, you have a woman who's 4'11", with no breast tissue, and you put this giant implant in there, it looks ridiculous. I say to them, would I do it? I'm so persuasive, I don't think they would do it. But to be honest with you, I have the benefit. I have this ridiculous, I'm so lucky. I have a TV show. I have all this experience. People know when people come in to see me, they're going to sign up for surgery. I don't have to compete with anybody.
Yeah, sure.
But when I was a young plastic surgeon, fresh out, and I had this new office and I wanted to, start paying overhead and having some savings and success, maybe I would have let the patient push the envelope more than I would let them now. I don't let them push the envelope. No pun intended, push the envelope, but I wouldn't let them. I just say, nah, that's not right for me. But I have the advantage of being able to turn down patients, and there's just another one.
Not everyone can.
Not everyone can.
Wow.
But I always say, treat the patient, to plastic surgeons, treat the patient like it's your sister or like it's your mother. Would you put too big an implant in your mom or your sister, even if she begged you? No, because you know better.
Yeah.
Do you have any good stories of people coming out of anesthesia in funny ways, trying to fight you, talking about wild shit?
So it's funny, the way you go, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they come out of anesthesia. Like, many guys come out of anesthesia fighting. And so their basic aggressive nature shows. Then there's a lot of women who come out of anesthesia crying, which is really interesting. And then I come out of anesthesia, like, how would you think? You don't know this about me, but I tend to be I was raised by a single mother who's extraordinarily sweet. I come out of anesthesia thanking everybody. Thank you. I really appreciate what you've done for me. And, you can tell a lot about a person's underlying personality by the way they come out of anesthesia. And so you get the guy who like is fighting you to stop it. Stop. What cracks me up. So I'll have a patient. We put the dressing on. I walk out to the nursing station. I'm writing my postoperative orders and dictating the operative report. And I can see 10 feet away my entire staff emerging the patient from anesthesia, taking the breathing tube out, and so on. And if it gets super aggressive, I run back in there and help them. So there was this woman who comes out of anesthesia recently, and she's like, you get away from me. And she's going berserk, almost like a psychotic episode, which can sometimes happen. And so what are you doing to me? Freaking out, and she won't, that's dangerous. She's trying to pull out her IV. She's trying to get off the table. She has like 3 people holding her down. And
scary.
I walk in and I look at her, and let's see, her name is Lucy. It wasn't, but it was Lucy. And I put my face right in her face. I go, Lucy, it's Dr. Dubrow. It's Terry Dubrow. And she's going, she opens her eyes. She goes like this. Hi, how are you? And I look at my staff and I go,
Love it.
Do I have the power or what?
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What percentage of people come out speaking a different language?
0.
Zero.
0.
What about accents?
No, they don't really.
Or is that just that my dad has a bit of
everyone.
My dad came out of anesthesia and was just trying to speak Chinese.
That's Bruce. That's just
Swear
Bruce.
to God.
Are you swearing?
Swear to God. He had 14 hours of back surgery, like spinal reconstruction.
Wow.
Thank God he's totally fine. Came out and he was just trying to speak Chinese.
Okay, so
No, he was just hungry for Chinese. He hadn't eaten all that.
This is kind of a bummer for me because this never happens. But I have a friend of mine who's a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. He's extraordinarily handsome. He should be an actor, like a soap opera actor. Like too perfect, these looks.
Yeah.
Like jet black hair, these piercing blue eyes, perfect bone structure. Half the women who come out of anesthesia go, oh, doctor, you're so handsome. I just want to have sex with you. This never happens to me. And it's, face for radio, I always say, right? Never happens to me. And then they do come out, they go, Dr. Bro, thank you. They're so great. Thank you so much for taking my case. And I go, oh, you're welcome. You're the best. You're a god. They call me a god all the time when they come out of anesthesia.
That's
and
nice.
I look at my nurses and I go, it's right. It's right. And then, or I'll say, they'll go, Dr. Bro, you're a god. And I'll go, what? And they'll go, you're a god. And I'll go, what? And they, because they're sort of not with it, they go, you're a god. I try to get them to repeat as many. And I keep looking to my nurse. I go, I'm sorry, what? That's what I do.
That's amazing.
That's my sense.
Is there anyone who ever comes in, because on the show sometimes we'll see someone who has gigantic lips or breasts or something about them and they love it. And despite they won't heed your advice and they just say, I have no desire to go smaller or to correct it. This is what I want. Has anyone ever come to you off camera weeks, months later and said, you're right, fix me? Like, does anyone ever have second thoughts?
So I will tell you, those cases on Botched, they invariably, not so much this year, you got to see this season. They're starting to listen to us now. Okay? But in the past, you're right, there's been like 8 seasons of, yeah, thank you very much for your opinion. I'm still going to go have more injected in my lips. I'm still going to have my breasts made bigger, even though they may burst out of my skin. But we have had a number of them have the complication that we warned them about. And they come back into my office and they go, oh my gosh, you're right. I have this disaster. Will you please fix me now? And we go, yeah, but now the show's not paying for it.
Right. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So we have seen that over all these years. By the way, we've been doing Botched The first episode premiered June of 2014.
Wow.
So we've been doing Botched for over 10 years. Think how many patients we've seen on Botched. So there's been a number of them who, we had a couple, unfortunately, we warned them otherwise, and they didn't survive ultimately when they actually went to the next step.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the show pays for all the surgeries.
So the show pays us to do the surgery.
Wow.
Yeah, they pay
Gotcha.
us to do the surgery, and that's what the patient gets paid.
This podcast for Ben and I'm going to be honest, we're blazing a trail here because most podcasts suck. And we were like, enough. Okay. We need to just, and we didn't want to, right? We hate money, but we were like, no, we're doing this for the people. And, you know, that's why I love Harry's, right? Because they too have blazed their own path because they were tired of seeing people get ripped off by questionable shaving products, right? In an industry that's basically just price gouging you. You buy that first razor, you're like, that was not a terrible deal until you realize every cartridge you need from here on out is going to cost you literally like a scholarship to an Ivy League college. Look, what I received from Harry's, are you ready? I got a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/goodguys. And what I loved was the delivery options allowed for scheduled refills, so I don't even have to think about going to the drugstore, for as low as $2. That's half of what you would pay with other big brands. Plus, they have everything else I needed, like, you know, great smelling deodorant for $5 or body wash that smells like redwoods or wildlands and stone. But I love that it's just like a no risk trial. If I don't like my shave, it's fine. It's on them, by the way. And they've got really high customer satisfaction for a reason. So don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/goodguys. That's harrys.com/goodguys for a $3 trial set.
They don't get paid. They get free surgery.
Free surgery. And how do you find these patients?
So there's...
Is it like American Idol?
Yeah. There's...
Like they like film a video like, here's why I need my tits bigger from you.
Well, there's a casting call
Okay.
that says, and they usually use us on our Instagram because our Instagrams have gotten bigger. They put out a casting call.
That's got to be a fun waiting room.
Right? Well, no, we don't. So this is the way it works. So you
go in, you're like, oh,
right.
Wrong door.
But right now, you can go to botchcasting.com, right?
Yeah.
And there's an application, you submit photos, and the network hires these casting agents to submit their photos and to tell their story. And they ask them to do a video. If the network likes it, because they want a certain mix of buttocks, breasts, face, nose, you know, and they have an interesting backstory, then they summarize the case and submit them to us. We get them written in sort of a picture. Like, this is what they look like. This is their history. Back the first season, they would send us like 50 possible cases to do. We go, that one's too hard. That one's too risky. This one, no. And then we take like 20 for the show or 30. Now, everyone, because we've had so much experience doing impossible to do plastic surgery, and we've gotten so experienced at it, I say no, never. Never. Unless, and now the patient then, I say yes, they fly them in from wherever they are. I meet them in their office. The only thing that will exclude them is if they have, you can tell they have body dysmorphia, unrealistic expectations, or they don't pass the sniff test. You don't like them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You meet someone, person, you just don't like them.
Yeah.
You don't want to
No
operate
good.
on those people.
No good.
Yeah, and I like everyone.
Yeah.
So if I don't like you, you probably have, you know, a narcissistic personality disorder or massive dysmorphia, or there's something going on with you that makes you not a candidate for this super high risk, difficult plastic surgery.
Wow.
Should we get to our what are you nuts moment? And
I was going to say, yeah,
do
but
it.
Josh, what wonderful questions. And I'm happy. If you didn't stop us, by the way, I think we would have spoken about Ozempic for 3 hours.
By the way, we're still going to
I love
by
the
way, I agree
passion.
with you.
I love the passion.
It's just so fascinating to me. But yes, we should get to what are you nuts. Josh, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go for it, Ben. And
I can pop. I can pop.
Terry, do you know our what are you nuts moment of the week is your gripes with people, places, and things? Could be minor, could be major, anything that's just currently sticking in your craw. Ben will go first.
All right. Just it's sort of a medley. airport. We spoke about this earlier. Yesterday, a multitude of things happened. I'm coming back from DFW to JFK. We're flying. We're 30 minutes from JFK, Josh. We're about to touch down. All of a sudden, attention, we don't have the proper whatever for icing. We're going to Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm like, what are you nuts? Like, what's wrong with you? You're Delta. How didn't you know that when we took off? You know what the weather looks like in New York before you took off. How are we about to land? You come back. We're grounded in Raleigh. They de-ice us. We get to LaGuardia, whatever. It ended up working out. But Delta, absolutely nuts, completely crazy.
I agree with that.
Before we boarded, I witnessed two just unthinkable acts. The first is woman walks up to the front and says, you know, I heard that the weather's not going to be so great. Do you think there's going to be turbulence on the flight? And the flight attendant says, you know, I'm not sure, but yeah, like there'll probably be turbulence. She's like, you don't know exactly how much turbulence there's going to be? The woman, again, she's the ticketing agent. She's like, no, I don't know exactly how much turbulence. People are insane. People are insane. The second or the third guy is in the airport, has a fishing pole with a hook. I can't get a water bottle through security, but this man can get a fishing pole with a hook. How the hell does that make any sense? This guy, it's like he's fishing in the airport, full hook, bait, pole. How do you get that in there? How do you get that through security?
Yeah,
what are you, nuts? Let me bring my fucking water bottle through security. There are no bombs with water bottles. We've gone too far since 9/11. We need to figure this out. TSA needs to figure this out. I don't need my bag checked because of a water bottle, especially if you're not checking it because of his fishing pole.
I agree with that. That's
Oh,
good.
Josh?
Speaking of, and thank you for reminding me, Ben. Terry, is it a doctor's worst fear or their biggest hope that on the loudspeaker of a flight in air, someone goes, is there a doctor on board?
Oh, this is also why I didn't become a dentist. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
There's nothing more
Can I
embarrassing
tell a
than
quick
that.
story? I'll try to make it as quick
Please,
as possible.
please.
No, there's no
It's
rush.
Worst fear, and I'll tell you why.
Yes.
Because you got this huge plane, all right? And we have an announcement. Is there a doctor on board? You go, oh, no. Because first of all, there's nothing you can do on a plane. They don't have any emergency resuscitative equipment. You can't start an IV. They
Don't
mostly
they
don't
have
even
a-
have no.
They don't
First
have
aid kit.
They don't have anything
Defib. They have a defib, no?
to shock
The ones
heart.
I've been on doesn't even have AEDs, defibrillators.
Wow.
But anyway, so you go back there, all right? Because at this stage of my life, I get to fly up front, right? You go back there, and there's some extremely overweight, diabetic with multiple medical problems who hasn't been feeling well for the past 4 days. And it invariably occurs like when you're over water, so there's no place to go. And you basically have to babysit them for the next 4 hours while your wife's drinking champagne in first class. So what has happened to me recently is there a doctor on board? Is a doctor on board? And I'm going like this.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, you'd be surprised. There are going to be 4 medical professionals on that flight.
Yeah,
there
sure.
always is, and there's always a marshal with a gun on the plane.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wait, and I'm not doing anything. And my wife's sister is on the plane, right? And she's looking at me. She goes, "Are you going to go back there?" I'm thinking, just wait. I'll go back there. She goes, "Is there a doctor? Is there a doctor?" I'm going, "Okay, all right, fine." So I wait, and I go back there, and there's a line of like 4 guys looking at this one person who doesn't look good. I'm going, oh, okay, there's a line. That's good. So I walk up and I go to the first guy, I go, what kind of medical professional are you? And he goes, I'm a dentist. I go, okay, so go sit down.
Yep.
And then I go to the next guy, I go, what's your specialty? He goes, I'm a radiologist. I go, okay.
I'll
Go
call
sit
you
down.
when we
Sit.
need an X-ray.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because, please let the next guy be an anesthesiologist, someone who's an expert resuscitating the acutely ill patient. And then I go up to the next guy. He goes, I'm family practice. I go, okay, go. Because I was board certified in general surgery. I did 7 years general surgery in the
Wow.
UCLA system. I was chief resident general surgery. Nobody's more trained than someone who is chief resident and board certified in general surgery.
Yeah.
You can take, ICU patients, save their, you can gunshot wounds. There's nothing you can't do if you're a general surgeon. Before I went to plastic surgery training the very next day. So I walk up the next guy and I go, what's your specialty? And he goes, I'm an anesthesiologist. And I went,
Boom.
yeah. I go, well, to trivialize myself, I'm like a cosmetic surgeon, so I'm just going to go back to first class. You're good. You got this, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, what do you? I go, cosmetic. He goes, well, do you have general surgery training? I go, no. Well, but not for a long time. You got this, pal.
What percentages of those do you think are just anxiety attacks?
I think...
Because the mind can play weird tricks on the body, right? Like you can think you're having a heart attack, but really you just... Right?
The problem is you don't know. You have no have no monitoring ability. I think most of them are people who knew better, got sick, were in the beginning stages of getting sick, and then they go up and they get much sicker.
Sure.
And they should be at home in the emergency room. Now they're on your plane. Yeah.
Selfish
That's
bastards.
the worst. By the way, what are you nuts? That's a good one. The person who's sick, who's got the beginnings of illness, they know they're getting a really bad flu and they're older and they're overweight and they've got multiple medical code disorders and they get on the plane. What are you, nuts? But that's not my are we going to do Josh's What Are You Nuts?
No, if you have one, please.
Go for it.
This is a What Are You Nuts of your friends.
Yes.
Okay, you go to this happened to me last week. You go to a movie theater. You're sitting there with your buddy going to watch this great movie and you're eating your popcorn and you've got your Diet Coke and the movie's about to start. And you hear your friend go, oh. I go, what, man? He goes, do you hear that guy sniffling? And I go, what guy? He goes, listen. And there's someone a couple rows over going. So I didn't hear it. I wouldn't have heard it. Now, all I can effing hear the entire movie is that person in the row, in the thing 3 rows in front of me sniffling, and I can't hear it. What are you, nuts? Why did you point that out? That's my what are you, nuts?
Also nuts is the person sniffling. One, have some self-awareness and get it checked out. Maybe you need a Zyrtec, right?
Or nose drops, something.
Yeah, or maybe you shouldn't have been sick in a movie theater.
I would agree.
Both are nuts.
Both are nuts. And then finally, the patient who flies in from, I got to change the country because this just happened, say Ireland. And they're going to have this big reconstructive procedure from me, right? Very difficult, very risky. And I see them the day before surgery, and I've got such a big surgical schedule that next day that I have to get up at 3:50 a.m. to get to so I can start them at 5 a.m. All right. So I get there at 4:45 and I walk in, how you doing? Trying to get them in a good mood, making my jokes, And the nurse goes to me, she took an Advil yesterday.
Amazing.
And an Advil before surgery is a blood thinner. And on all of our notes for them preoperatively, it says no aspirin, no Advil, no Aleve. Because a blood thinner, you're not going to slice someone open who's on a blood thinner. She goes, well, I had a headache. I go, but you saw that on the records, everything you got? Yeah, I saw that. She goes, but I had a headache, so I took an Advil. So now that entire 7-hour case is canceled.
Yeah.
But I'm here at 4:50 in the morning. Anyway, what are you
nuts?
That's when you give yourself a little gas and you take a 4-hour nap. Am I right? You just give yourself a little something. You're welcome, Terry.
It's the Versed. I take the Versed. Yes. I'm going to use what you were going to use. So,
Josh, before your what are you nuts, it came into my mind. Thoughts on people going to Turkey for these hair implants?
Very, very good.
Okay, we like it.
Turkey is really. I'm not a big fan of medical tourism. I was on Nightline talking about medical tourism, the dangers of medical tourism. But Turkey and hair transplants,
they know what they're doing.
Are good.
They know what they're doing.
Really good, and it's cheap.
It's very cheap.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll pay for your hotel, I hear.
They
and it's funny. You get back and it's just all like, at least in New York, the flight is 100% Persian Jews. So you just have these like Persian Jews, head completely wrapped, back from Turkey.
I'm telling you, skilled. These Turkish, there's
Good to
great
know.
surgeons all over the world, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But Turkish plastic surgeon, hair transplant, fantastic.
Wow.
And obviously you're the doctor, Terry. I heard someone say the only problem is if, God forbid, you are the 1% that has a complication or code,
Screwed.
You don't know the ICU in that country.
That's the problem. You don't know what the general medical care is. You have no insurance. You're at their mercy. And then as soon as you fly back, no one here is interested
Yeah.
in you. We don't know what you did, and nobody wants to take somebody else's problem on. There's so many reasons why not to do medical tourism. But hair transplants, what's the worst thing that could happen? That it didn't take.
Yeah,
Nobody's
sure.
going to die from a hair transplant.
So you might as well save the 25 grand.
Yeah.
It's that big of a difference, I hear.
Oh,
I hear it's like 30 here or something and 5 there.
But if you compare Manhattan or Beverly Hills,
sure.
A good hair transplant here of like 3,500 grafts by a really outstanding hair transplant surgeon in Manhattan and Beverly Hills is probably going to cost you 15 grand, maybe 20, maybe 25 if you go to one of these really high level guys. I think it's 3 grand there, and they feed you.
They
put you up.
Yeah, they do. No, they
and arguably, because they're so high volume, they might be better.
They might be better.
I mean, not to say the Manhattan and Beverly Hills hair transplant surgeons aren't top notch, because they are, but they're really good. Here's the thing about medicine: the more you do, the better you are.
Of course.
By far, because it's the practice of medicine.
Yeah.
So even if you trained at UCLA or Massachusetts General, and you don't do a high volume, you're never very good.
No.
Just because you were a genius and got into Harvard Medical School, that doesn't make you a good surgeon.
Yeah. Also, Harvard, fuck them.
Right.
Am I right?
You need
Right.
You need tons quick story.
It's good.
2003, I got selected to be the doctor on a TV show called The Swan. And it was a big show on after American Idol.
Okay.
After American, think of the lead in.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
From American Idol. So what do you think happened in my practice the day before I was on The Swan to the day after I was on The Swan? It was one of them.
Through the roof.
Through the roof. So
Wow.
most plastic surgeons do 80 to 120 significant cases a year. I do 700 now, but
Wow.
back then I went from like 110 cases a year to the next 5 years, I was doing 500 cases a year.
You do 700 cases a year.
I do.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How many days of the week?
I'll tell you why. I'm fast. When you're 65, you've been operating this much, and you do it. For a while I was doing 7 days a week. You get really efficient and really fast. Whereas like someone else does a facelift in 9 hours or a body lift, I can do it 2 hours, 3 hours.
Wow.
And I used to have to set the patient up for the breast reduction or breast augmentation 15 times to adjust. I sit them up once, make an adjustment, twice, done. Next. Wow. Yeah, you just get good at it. What were you about to ask me?
I was going to ask you, how many surgeries, like you'll have surgery days of the week, right? Like, and about how many surgeries will you do in that time? Or I guess it just depends on the extremeness of the case.
It's doing an average of 2 a day, though. 700 a year.
Well,
That's
I used to do 7 days a week.
Okay.
Literally would operate all day Sunday and all day Saturday. Then one of my son, he was at the refrigerator Sunday, and I go, "Wow, when did you get so tall?" And my wife looks at me, she goes, "That's it. No more Sunday surgery."
When did you get so tall?
I know. And then I thought, okay, I'm missing my kids. So I stopped working Saturdays and Sundays. Now, occasionally I'll do a case Saturday morning. But it depends, because if a person has what used to take me 6 hours now takes me 2.5.
Yeah, sure.
So if you can have 2 6-hour cases in a day, and that's all you do. But now I can do 3 or 4 or 5 cases in a day. I'm trying to scale back a little bit because I want to make sure I exercise more. I call these the marginal years. These are the years when you get past 50, 55, 60. If your guys at your age and you guys don't work out, it's probably not going to shorten your life. If you're over 50 and you don't work out, that's going to shorten your life. You have to work out in the last third every single day. So when you guys hit 50, 60, 70, you have to make it like,
Gotta pump.
I eat every day, I brush my teeth every day, I take a shower, I kiss my wife, I work out. Every single day. And if you don't, you're going to shorten your life.
The only part of that I'm not cool with is the kissing your wife. every day.
Or your husband or your boyfriend or whatever.
Yes, no, my wife, but you know, we're not that close. Okay, so my what are you nuts is I was walking the street yesterday with my gorgeous, beautiful 15-month-old son, Shy, and he's in his stroller. We're big walkers. And this woman's coming towards us, and she's walking an animal, and I see she's walking a cat. That's the first what are you nuts. You're walking. There is nothing weirder than seeing a cat on a leash. Okay, it sounds like a play. There's cat on a hot tin roof, cat on a leash. Okay,
Josh, there was a pig. I'll send you the picture later. I can't believe this wasn't my What Are You Nuts, and I forgot to send it to you. My sister sent me a picture last week on the Upper East Side. A woman walking a pig.
Wow,
crazy. Well,
crazy.
This cat is fully on a leash. So then we're in a standoff now. I'm like, are you gonna move? Do I move? What's happening? She doesn't move. I go, no problem. I'll go into the street where the cars are with my child in a stroller so you can walk your cat by me and you can be safely on the sidewalk. What are you, nuts? That was crazy.
That's hilarious. By the way, I love cats. I
You
love
do?
dogs. I love dogs. I am cat obsessed.
Okay, I love dogs. I don't like cats.
Yeah.
I did have a weird, I think it's always like, did something happen to you? A cat, I was younger, gave me a nice scratch. I don't like cats.
But
I don't like them.
You ever seen those Instagram things, you know, when you're sort of swiping and it shows the guy, the macho guy who used to hate cats and now he's like with the cat. He's,
Yeah, once you get a cat.
Once you get a cat, you get it.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, women
I'm
who
sure.
are painful, but you can't help yourself. And then they're so fantastic. You fall in love and you're done.
Yeah.
I love cats.
Anything else we want to plug
Well,
here?
just I think the Red Dress Collection concert with the American Heart Association is such an important thing, and focus on heart health is critical. You know, just one interesting statistic, maybe two, and I'll leave you with this. You know, 1 out of 5 women between the ages of 50 and 75 will have a stroke every year. Okay. So it affects a tremendous number of females and, of course, men. And if you have a TIA, the chances that you will have a full-blown stroke is probably 25 to 30% within a year.
Wow.
So you need to get checked out for heart health and for stroke potential. Go to your doctor and say, work me up. What's my cholesterol? I want to know my HDL, my LDL, my total cholesterol, and get on that treadmill and have them do an echo. Because I don't know about you. Have you ever had any friends who've been 30, 35 years old who suddenly die from unknown cardiovascular disease? Have you had any?
Thank God, no. I did have one at 17, unknown cardiovascular.
Really?
It was horrible.
I've
Guy
had
was playing
friends like
fr-
that,
guy
but
was
they
play-
did a lot of
guy was playing-
cocaine.
Yeah.
That's the Fent. That's the Fent. But no, this kid, 17, playing
Yeah.
Frisbee, died.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But I mean, you know, you could take a man who's in great shape. He's 55, 50 years old and sudden cardiac arrest. And had he just gone to to his doctor and had a stress echo, they would have seen that there was a vulnerable part of his cardiac circulation. They would have seen what his cholesterol is. Go get checked out for cardiac disease, because if you live long enough, you will die from cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't live long enough, you probably could have prevented it. So cardiovascular health is the key thing to focus on, besides diet and exercise and Ozempic.
Look at this. You normally laugh. Now you learn. Where else do you get this? You don't get this anywhere besides Good Guys, right, Josh? You don't get this anywhere. So rate,
So
review, and
true.
subscribe. Send it to a friend. This episode's at least 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, what are you, nuts? Where else are you going to get this type of content? Find us on Apple, Spotify, on YouTube, on Josh's YouTube channel. Terry, Dr. Dubrow, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure. We'll have wonderful clips, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. You guys are truly good guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
we like to think so.
The internet disagrees. Thank you, Terry.
Great.
That was awesome.